talking about Tommy Rich. Well, since we're going to talk about Tommy Rich and somebody brought Tommy Rich up, I have to say that, I think we talked about it before, but, there's been all kinds of, Michael Hayes went on what was the show, Jack, that they did where they all sat together? There's 4 of them. I think Jim Ross or somebody did what was this called?
I can't remember. It was a round table or something like that.
Round table
really
discussion.
Good series. Yeah.
Now, evidently, Michael Hayes must have thought, he must have thought they were working him, but he told the people that Tommy Rich's win was basically a screw job, basically, of it was like a Bret Hart deal, which it never was. Tommy Rich won the title now, did it help Tommy Rich winning the title for 1 week? Probably not. That probably was not the greatest thing at the time. Probably hurt him more than it actually helped him. What do you think, Jack?
I was there during that time period, so I remember the big pop. Hearing about that he had the belt. I think though before he got to Columbus, he had already dropped the belt. So of course that was the thing running through everybody in the crowd was, man, that didn't last long. And then he had a return match with Harley, and I don't know what the deal was, but he basically went out in that return match and just did a job for Harley. I mean, he had a few hope comebacks and that was it. And then Harley beat him right in the middle of the ring. So, I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, I really don't think that it helped him. I mean, at least he can say he is a former NWA World Champion, but I don't know if it helped him the way they thought it was going to help him putting the title on him. But everybody, that match, they knew exactly what was going on. Harley Race. Number one, Tommy Rich couldn't beat Harley Race in his great day. The only way he's beating Harley Race if Harley Race wants him to beat him. I want
to say though that for that certain time period there, Tommy Rich was probably the hottest babyface in the business.
Yeah.
I mean, the crowd reaction was just phenomenal to him. And if Tommy had ever been able to keep his head right, I think he could have been a major star somewhere. But he just, he was his own worst enemy, and I hate that because I like Tommy personally.
Yeah. I've got to say something. There is a wrestler, and probably everybody on here at least has heard about the guy. I won't even tell his name, but he's in California. And he just recently tweeted a tweet, and he said that Van Vader was too hard and that he thought back then there were bullying in wrestling. Now, this is the problem with this guy that he did. What you was watching was a work that looked real. So he was not being bullying him. That was called professional wrestling. And this guy, though, he said they were bullying, and Jim Cornette and him got into a sparring match next to each other. But I don't think he understands what wrestling is. Is that the problem, Jack, with people today? And I asked Rodney the same thing. Is that the problem today, that they believe what they're watching today is the same stuff that was being done in the 70s, 80s, and even the early 90s?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different product. It's a different world. It was hard to get in when I started. In 1975, man. It literally took me almost 10 years to fully get in the door to actually start wrestling. I mean, it was hard. Hard business. I got beat up. I beat people up. I mean, it was just part of it. And everybody wants to talk about Terry Gordy, and I agree. Being one of the greatest wrestlers in the world, I love Terry Gordy. But, buddy, if you didn't change your shorts before you went in there, you'd have to when you got out, because he'd lay some stuff in there. And I love that. But, that's a different mentality, a different age. I don't mean this unkindly. I don't think a lot of guys now could survive back then. But also saying that, a lot of the guys back then couldn't do what's being done today.
Yeah, this is true.
Two different.
And I don't think really and truly the problem is even the guys in the business, they did it so well that the guys that say they're in the business now believe what they were doing was real. And that says a lot about the wrestlers back in those days, how good they were, because that guy really thought that Van Vader was beating the guy up. The guy finally tweeted back to him and says, "Listen, I was in the ring with the guy. He was not. You just thought he was beating me up because that's what we wanted you to believe."
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, guys could be tight, but guys that were stiff didn't. I mean, they got took to school. I mean, a promoter would bring somebody in to take care of that. So that wasn't a prevalent thing, back in our day.
No,
we were just taught to, you work a tad tighter. I mean, if you couldn't be light and make it look tight, look legit, then you tightened up a little bit to make it look legit. But you still wasn't trying to hurt each other. That defeated the purpose of what we were doing.
I mean, what do you think, Rodney? I mean, the guys today, what does it say about those guys that they believed that what they were doing was legit?
Honestly, that's the difference between professional wrestling and sports entertainment. It's just they're not meant to be the same. And when you come to the point where back then they were regarding as such as Mid-South Wrestling that we're covering, they come to the point that it's real. They give you no indications that today's product is even anywhere close to that. And they don't want you to believe that it is. That is their point. And that's the reason with anybody with a wrestling background, you can kiss your job goodbye in the WWE because they're not interested in professional wrestling. They're interested in sports entertainment. And you bring up this professional wrestling angle and you're finished. That is the bottom line on that, because they're not in the professional wrestling business. They're in sports entertainment and have been for a long time.
Tommy Pittner.
Hey!
Great wrestler back in the Tennessee area. Wish the territories were making comebacks. What's your take on it? I do believe a territory could come back. The only thing that is stopping you at this point, and Jack knows, is the talent to be able to understand that what they're watching on television is not what you, as a local promoter or a local territory that's going to run a town every week or every other week or even every month, that you have to slow it down. And it's hard, isn't it, Jack, to get them to understand the slowing down part?
It really is.
Don't you think that's the key point? Because I believe you have the ability to reach the people now, but to be able to slow down the people.
Yeah, the internet has given us a way to reach people that we've never had in our history before. Yeah. And I think that the potential of it is just barely being tapped right now. But there's a lot of promotions that are starting to understand that you can reach worldwide if you put a good product out there. But there's still old school philosophies that you need to do if you're doing that, because if you're filming your home show, like most of them do, and putting it on there, why would somebody buy a ticket when they can sit at home and watch it? So, there's a purpose to televise, whether it's on TV, the internet, or the drive-in theater. There's a purpose why you televise stuff, and that's to get people to come buy a ticket. And if you're giving your product away, you don't make money that way. And that's been my hardest thing to try to get guys to understand, about the usage of it. But man, I think territories are very possible to come back.
Yeah.
I hear people all the time that are hungry for that type of wrestling again. But you can do it with any style of wrestling if you do it smart.
This is true. What do you think, Rodney?
Oh, I absolutely think there's a market for it. And I think that this whole thing of trying to do a national, I think it all starts local. I think you'd have to build it one market at a time. Once you get one market, then you expand into 2 to 3 to 4. But basically, it comes right down to the talent and having the right mixture in talent. Have people that know what they're doing and can understand that things happen 13 weeks from now. We're not going to do it all in one night. We're going to start the show when the bell rings and end it in the same night. That's just not the way it's done. And especially like Jack was saying, you can't show everything you've done on television. It just doesn't work. Because why would you do that when you can sit at home and watch it for free? So it has to be arena driven, and with TV being like the news, just giving it the highlights and letting people know what's coming up next.
Well, I will tell you, WWE not doing live events, if that is something that he continues doing even after the problems going on in the world right now, I think that his product will suffer greatly because the wrestlers are not going to have their time. They're not going to learn. They're not going to learn their craft, and they're certainly not going to learn their timing and stuff. So if he tries that, I'm sorry, that's going to be bad for WWE. A wrestler has to wrestle. There are some great wrestlers out there, and there's some great guys that know and maybe will listen to say, listen, it's not what you're watching on TV. It's not about the high flyings. It's not about the going in and out of the ring. And I think if you could find that core group of guys and then you can find 14 guys and you got 14 sitting over here waiting, because the problem would be is being able to find the 14 and then having 14, because after about 13 weeks, they're going to get tired of seeing them.
Right.
And so
at least half of them have to be moved for sure.
They have to be moved. So that's